Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Towards Better podcast. And today we're going to talk about customized employment. It's a methodology, a formal concept that we use here at Towards Better. And so thought it's really important for us to share that with a wider audience on this podcast. So let's dive into it. Let's start with the basics here. So customized employment is a formal concept. It's been around since the early 2000s. It really emerged, but being practiced earlier on than that. It really emerged from disability employment initiatives and policies that were designed to improve employment outcomes for people with significant disabilities. So people that others thought were completely not capable of working, maybe also practically required some considerations around their own life situation and how work might be possible. It was originally introduced in the United States with the publication of some guidelines by the Office of Disability Employment, which is a part of the U.S. Department of Labor. And it really builds on earlier approaches around supported employment and individualized job placement, which, as I mentioned, have roots going back to the 70s and 80s. And so over the past 2 decades, customized employment's really gained traction internationally as not only a best practice for creating inclusive workplaces, particularly people with disabilities, but these principles have also been adopted and adapted by various organizations, governments, advocacy groups around the world, and individual organizations such as ourselves. It's a flexible process that's really designed to personalize the employment relationships between a job seeker or employee and an employer, in the way that it meets the needs of both the employee, potential employee, and the business. It's not an either or. This isn't unlike other models where there's a bit of a charity mindset and that the employer is really doing the person and service here. It's particularly effective for people with disabilities, but it can really benefit all employees, and we'll see that here later on in this podcast. So by focusing really on the unique skills and strengths of each person, which is the starting point for customized employment, the business can really create tailored job roles and maximize productivity and satisfaction. Unlike traditional employment practices that advertise a role and fit people into those pre-existing roles, customized employment builds roles around people. But again, a safeguard here is that these roles ultimately benefit both the would-be employee and the business. So this isn't a building roles around an employee that are sort of made up, and we'll see some examples later on and some real-life stories here. So what are some benefits to customized employment to the business? And really, I think it's a game changer. I mean, I've seen this change in people and businesses through our work. Firstly, it boosts productivity and innovation. So when employees work in roles that are tailored to their strengths, they're more engaged and motivated. This leads on an individual level to higher productivity, to innovative solutions. As employees really bring their own unique perspectives to the table, it really also improves the productivity and innovation around the other job roles. So we'll see later on and hear about in some of the stories how employees that have been with the organization a bit longer, or maybe have a skill set that is on a higher level, they're able to move into those roles a bit more and maybe let go of some of the tasks that occupy their time, that the tasks that are still valuable to the business, but could perhaps be done by an entry-level employee. And maybe those tasks aren't readily a part of an advertised role. So it really takes pulling those tasks out of a role and creating this customized role, perhaps around someone who could be particularly skilled in that role, and the whole team becomes more productive, and it adds this flavor of innovation. Secondly, customized employment opens up access to a broader talent pool. And in this current market here in 2024, we know that many businesses struggle to find the right talent. You know, they're talking about attracting and retaining the right people, talking about pressures on their current team. And so going back to that first point, this takes the pressure off their current team and adds another person that can assist in this business and add some productivity there. But it really adds now, you've got this person in the business that you've discovered some of their skills, their workforce attributes, people who are often overlooked. Now you have this person in your business, and it not only helps you to fill roles more effectively, but brings this diverse skill set into the team. So if this person's around, the next time you go to hire, the next time maybe another staff member's on leave, you already have someone existing within the business who can fill these roles, step into those shoes, who could move up in the business, move into other roles. It's a way of almost a pathway into the workplace here while meeting your business needs at the same time. And then let's not forget about employee morale and retention. So again, keeping those people here and keeping the workplace as a happy and harmonious place to be. When employees feel really valued, when they feel supportive, they're more likely to stay with your company. They're more likely, you're going to have less turnover, less associated costs. You know, if it costs you 10 to 20 grand to recruit just one employee, well, keeping those people around saves you that money. Keeping those people more productive and happy saves you that money, saves them time off work for sick leave or, or burnout. So it really fosters this culture of engaged employees, of supportive workplaces, just some higher satisfaction and loyalty. So what are some steps? If you think this all sounds really great, as do I know it works. I know it's effective for potential employees, particularly those that are traditionally not thought of in your hiring or recruitment efforts, and your team. What are some, how can you get started? So there's a few practical steps that I'll touch on. The first thing is a bit of a stock take. So assessing like how ready is your workplace for this? And I wouldn't say that this is something that should be used as an excuse. Oh, we're just not ready yet, because we're always ready for growing our team. We're always ready when someone leaves to fill that spot again. So if you're ready to, if someone quit tomorrow and you would go out and hire, well, then you're ready for recruitment. This part of workplace readiness is about where are some current employment practices and areas where customized employment could be beneficial. So where are some areas in the business that could really use with an extra person, could really use with some alleviation of current tasks from the staff that are already there? Some areas that the current team could perhaps develop further and move into higher level leadership roles if only they had someone to do these tasks here. Or is it a matter of someone wants to work less hours and you want to retain that person, and so we're going to look at taking, say, 8 hours away from someone who wants a day a week off, and we're going to actually add a role in there as a retention strategy. So looking at, where's your business at, and what are some practices that we think we could, and areas that could benefit here. And then it's really looking at those job roles. So kind of getting into the micro, not so much a strategy of the business, but the micro here. Where are some roles that could be better adapted to fit individuals' strengths? And I'll highlight some of this thinking in the examples I share later on. So this might involve job carving. So, as I mentioned, kind of carving out aspects of a current role. If someone has 10 tasks in their current job, are there 2 or 3 that someone could do a day, a week, a few hours, twice a week, where specific tasks could be allocated to a new employee based on their strengths and skill sets and passions? And then really another strategy is to engage with these organizations that are connected with people. So people like myself at Towards Better, organizations that are connected deeply with people, where they'd know people well enough where they could identify not only the strengths, the gifts, the talents, the passions, the interests of someone, but what would make this a great fit and why. What are the things that this person can do really well? What are their personal attributes? What type of people do they want around them? I mean, this takes really getting to know someone beyond their resume. It takes actually not even really caring about a resume so much, but get to engage with those organizations. And then really thinking about these inclusive recruitment strategies. So we're talking about getting away from your traditional job descriptions. So perhaps taking some of the things out of that are in there, really focusing on skills and abilities rather than rigid requirements. And you'll see, on some of our LinkedIn posts and other things, is it really a requirement of the job to have a driver's license? What about things like someone who's bubbly or a quick thinker or fast-paced work environment? All of these things subtly you might not think they're rigid, but they create these rigid requirements in people's mind prior to even coming to an organization. They create perceptions that this is a place that's kind of how do we create some not only bias-free interviews, but how do we eliminate as much anxiety-provoking things prior to the interview as possible? And I'll talk about that, later on in other podcasts, and I do in some of the content we put out there. But think about anything along the way that might promote and might provoke anxiety. And that could be anything from someone applies online, and then you're going to give them a phone call and ask them questions on the spot. You're going to have a phone interview before an in-person interview, and then you're going to have an interview after the interview, and all these sort of depthful processes or some lengthy online application. That step around connecting with some of those organizations like Towards Better is really helpful, because what a company wants is a safe hire. We want to hire from people we already know. We want to hire from people that someone we know knows. That's safety there, and these organizations then create that relationship of safety if they know people well. Now at Towards Better, we work alongside 15 to 20 people maximum at any given time. So we'll never work alongside more than that. And that's for the reason we want to create a relational model continually where we depthfully get to know people. Some other agencies might have 50 to 100 people per one, say, case manager, if that's their role title. And so this is something you can really query there, is how many people do you work alongside? And if they have a caseload, quote unquote, of 50 to even 30 is too many, in my opinion. 30, 50, 100, 150 people, you have to wonder how well can people get to know someone to be edifying them, to then connect them to your organization. Because even at Towards Better, we don't always get it right. And so if we're an organization working with 15 or 20 people and we don't get it right, imagine people working alongside more. The last bit is to prepare your whole team for this happening. So sometimes HR can be seen as a function where HR comes in and all the people just follow, like HR said we should do it, so we do it, but we don't really know the reason and we're not really bought into it. We're just doing it because HR has come in and said that they're the ones leading the way. You really need this across an entire organization. And so that's really sharing the purpose of this, of we want you to stick around. We want this to be a place that people want to work. We want actually to be innovative because we say we are. We say we're innovative. We want to be individualized because we say we are. We want to do what's best for the customer. That means doing what's right by our internal team. So those values you have written on the wall, come back to them and link them back to this supportive work environment. And so this is about thinking about what things are we willing to do then as a team. So your team's going to need to do some things. If you're the person kind of driving some of this change and bringing others on the journey, your team is going to need to be prepared that they're going to have to do some things. This isn't oh, this is too hard. No, it might be a little difficult, but we're willing to make the investment of our time, our resources, our learning, of our courage here to make this happen. And so what things are we willing to do to accommodate people? Or can we just really ask people, what are the range of ways? And maybe we can come up with a list prior of what accommodations, what support systems we'll have in place. We can provide training for managers on inclusive practices. We can set up some structures ahead of time of how we're going to have some ongoing depthful supports of employees already on the team and the potential employee coming in. So it really takes this intentional effort here, and it's not anything unusual. If you're a business that gets together with your team, several times a week or once a week, you're able to manage this. This is manageable. Customized employment isn't something that's going to, I'd say, in fact, people spend more time managing, putting an ad on Seek and then having it filter through applications and go through 12 checks and balances and to finally get to an interview, than to put it through the recruitment process. And 6 weeks later, you don't know if you've hired the right person or not. And hundreds of hours have been spent. I'd say that's probably a lot more cumbersome than what we're talking about here. So now I just want to wrap this up and start to touch on a few stories and then a call to action here. And I want to share some stories of some things that are going on here in North Queensland, in Townsville. I can speak specifically on that. And so I'll share some examples from small business, from government, from not-for-profits, from social enterprise, and hopefully you can get some reference points from that. And all these will be really de-identified. I'm not going to share company names or people's names because I just want to respect that people's employment journey is what it is, and that's not something that I should really flaunt. Hopefully it'll give you some idea of avatars that might relate to your business and go, that sounds kind of like me. I think I could do that. So one of the first businesses I just want to touch on is a retail shop that specializes in drones and 3D printing. And this retail shop saw that there was a need within the business for some retail tasks. They'd also been connected through ourselves with a young person that had a passion for drones, had done their drone pilot course, hadn't really had any job experience, but really liked technology and drones and electronics, had a good eye for detail, and was someone that could be useful to this company. And they were only looking for maybe one day a week for a few hours. And this person's skill set, really just natural skill set, matched what the business needed, which was someone to stock the shelves, inventory products, unpack boxes, organize the store, assist with some 3D printing tasks. And so this was created into a casual role. Another entity was a state government department, and this is kind of a twofold, which I'll touch on in two different stories. But the first one being that the business saw that it had a need for some interim contractual employees, and it went, I think we could do things differently here. Generally, it's a customer service and admin role, but we want to go back to the organization being towards better and see what it is that who people are and what skill sets they might bring. And so we'd gone and met with 3 different people, and they wanted 3 people for these 3 different opportunities that were going to be a contract part-time. And so I'd gone to the 3 people, figured out their skill sets within admin, their natural skill sets. None of these people had extensive work experience. One had done a Cert 3 in business, another had done a Cert 2, but they hadn't had a plethora of business experience and certainly not government. But this department came to us and said, we're open to what that might look like, and we want to see what people actually can bring to the table here, and we'll work around that. But we really are committed to customized employment. And so we'd gone through this process of identifying people's skill sets, setting up times, not for really an interview, but more of a tour, a chat about the role. So this person potentially could meet the team in that way, and then they could also see, here's what's going on. And that had eventuated to 3 employees being employed for several months on a contract, some having their first ever employment experience, and all of them the first time ever being employed in a government role. One of them went on to have his contract continually extended and get extensive experience in the government and transition to private enterprise. And so this is a fine example of even bigger agile businesses, exploring how to do this within their current recruitment processes, but how to go through all of that. Another is a real estate company, and where they've started is they identified within their team, their admin team, their marketing, their real estate agents, several tasks that were going to be really useful for someone to do, but we're taking up the time of the admin, the marketing, and the agents, and taking them away from their clients. Real estate agencies have gotten very busy, and so time is of the essence. And so they'd gone, these tasks are really valuable. We're just going to see if we can get one person, and we'll start with a few hours once a week that they'll be able to do these tasks. And so they hit me up and said, basically, here's everything. We just want, we actually want to find someone who's really good at these several tasks and could be really great at them. And I'd known someone, we were actually hunting for something like this. And so it was an easy connect the dots. And then we've continued to work together, the 3 of us, between the employee, myself, the employer, all of us, to move things forward. Another company was a not-for-profit situated in the technology digital space. They'd come and said, look, we want someone to start in a voluntary capacity because that's all we've got at the moment. But then as we build our cash flow, we want to bring someone on potentially as an employee. Now, they looked at, this could have been a big role managing a whole area, but they looked and went, look, we think we've got a few specialized tasks. And I'd already known someone who had an interest in technology, who had some basic skills with computers, who was currently doing a online course, and could do this role really well. And that's turned into 2 years of a relationship and ongoing part-time employment, and expanding that employee's skill set, and looking for ways to further develop him, the team. That team has grown more. And so, he's kind of taken on this new, but I also know things here sort of role. Another business was in tourism and hospitality, a large hotel and resort, looking at their housekeeping department and going, here's all the roles of housekeeping, and we really want to customize a percentage of this. Traditionally, housekeeping is one of those things that's always full-time. It's very fast-paced. There's a whole heap of non-negotiables that actually are negotiable. And they looked at these and went, actually, it's not essential that someone does all these tasks. They can really just start with changing the sheets on the beds and putting new towels in the room. And that could be 4 or 8 hours a week. And I'd known someone who was really good at that, really loved doing it at home, had some passion in the housekeeping space, liked that quiet environment, but one that had some structure, some routine, and consistent, well-paced work. And so that was connecting the person there with a semi-existing role that had been kind of carved out in essence. Another company, Human Service, they said we had a fleet of cars, and we don't want to bring in some contractor business to go and wash and clean them and detail the inside and check the logs. We'd actually like to hire someone internally because we think we can build capability within our fleet. But we also think then this person, if they got their driver's license eventually, or maybe we brought on someone else in a job share role who had their license, that people could kind of manage the fleet and maybe then come into the office a bit to do some of the admin side of that. And so that's kicked off, and had identified someone for that sort of role. And then the last one here was a building and construction supplier. And I'd known someone that was wanting to get into the trades industry, but in more of an admin type role where they could talk to some of the customers, the tradies, the other people. And so it found a local trades company that supplied a whole range of products to the building industry. And this person had actually assisted their admin team with processing some of the invoices, the sales dockets, then it advanced to taking some of the phone calls because they were good with talking with people. And it doesn't always work out, so the role didn't continue on. And it turned out that it was probably better for both parties, but it was a great discovery along the way and a springboard for both parties to discover that, hey, this person actually has some skills, and now they're working nearly full time in kind of the fishing wharf and like that industry. So it's been really all these stories highlight the transformative power of customized employment and its real potential to benefit both businesses and employees. So just as a wrap up, it's really remembering that customized employment, none of this is a trend. I've said it's been around since the 2000s with some of the essence of customized employment practiced since, for 30, 40 years. So it's not a trend. It's a really powerful strategy to unlock potential within your workforce. And by focusing on individual strengths and creating some really, truly inclusive and interdependent environments, you can really drive innovation in your team, enhance productivity amongst all your team, and really build loyalty, a great brand internally, a people culture where people want to work. So if you're interested in learning more, first, stay tuned for our upcoming ebook called Introduction to Customized Employment, a beginner's guide for inclusive workplaces. So it'll be packed with practical advice, templates, and real-world examples to get you started. Otherwise, please get in contact with us. All the links will be in the show notes and anywhere else this is shared. And really, thanks for joining me today on the Towards Better podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with your networks and follow us on social media for some more insights on building inclusive workplaces. And until next time, let's create a more inclusive and successful future together.